Hi guys, Galactic Gaming here, and welcome to my top 10 EPG ship list in Star Trek Online. I noticed that many of you will be completing your event campaign soon, and if some of you are into the EPG meta like I am, you may be wondering what ships you want to pick up for this year's event campaign. So, here we go. Starting out our list in the number 10 spot, we have the legendary Glenn Temporal Operative Science Vessel. This science vessel has a temporal command combo, which makes it pretty decent for side torp potential. It also has decent movement stats for a ship of its size, and it also comes with a 4-2 weapons layout, which allows for more forward-facing torpedoes. It does have a few disadvantages though. First of all, the unique trait on it, it got nerfed into the ground a way back, and now it's not even worth slotting. This ship is very expensive. It is part of a 10th anniversary bundle, which is very expensive, but if you get the whole 10th anniversary bundle, you do get a lot of ships, so might not be all that bad. The consoles that come with this ship are not very well suited to the ship's strengths. One of them, weaponized helical torsion, does a laughable amount of damage, and another very good bit about it is the passives on it, which actually made it part of the DPS meta for a hot minute. And Lorca Maneuver, that's the Black Alert console, it's just not worth slotting at all. And finally, the Lieutenant Engineering seat offers little for EPG setups. It could be decent for a do-side build, but you're not really wanting to run a do-side build on this ship in particular. In the 9th spot, we have another legendary ship. This one is the legendary Kalian Intel Multi-Mission Explorer. This ship has double Intel seating, which makes the ship amazing for a variety of build types, mainly anomaly builds and do-side builds. It has a 4-2 weapons layout, which is always great to see. It also has a hangar bay, which allows the use of Type 7 shuttles, which on an EPG build are really the only hangar pets you really need, because they're the ones that do the most amount of debuff. And for a ship of its size, it is decently fast. Now, I actually really enjoy flying this ship around, but there are a few downsides to it. One of which is it has a Lieutenant Engineering seat, which offers little outside of a do-size setup. One thing you notice along this list is that a lot of these ships have Lieutenant Engineering seats, and that just makes them somewhat unsuited for anything other than Jusai. This ship has a low hull modifier that makes the ship very squishy. It has a hull modifier of 0.95, which is, doesn't sound like a lot, but it is very noticeable once you take it into elite TFOs. Even though this ship is an Intel ship, it has a cloaking device, but it's only a standard cloaking device, so it's not going to be of much use inside combat. And the traits from the ship aren't very well suited to EPG builds, although you do get a fair amount of them, because you basically get traits from all the tier 6 versions of the Vestas, plus the extra trait, unique trait that comes from this ship. Moving to the number 8 spot, we have the Dauntless 2 Command Science Dreadnought. This ship is genuinely a fantastic side-torp platform with a commander command seat and a lieutenant commander temporal operative seat. This ship is just amazing for side torps. It's very tanky because it is a science dreadnought. It also has a hangar bay because, again, it is a science dreadnought, which allows you to use the Type 7 shuttlecraft. It has a 4-3 weapons layout. The temporal seat is also on the engineering seat, which means you can use that seat for all temporal abilities, which is great because within engineering, there's not really much for exotic builds. And the trait is also really good for side torp builds, giving you bonus kinetic damage for 30 seconds whenever you use a torpedo firing mode and an exotic bridge officer ability. For its cons, it's got very bulky movement stats because it's being a science dreadnought, and it's also really expensive to obtain because it is a lockbox ship. Next on the list, we have the Cheval Temporal Science Spearhead. This ship is actually pretty good, but I rarely ever see anybody flying it around, and I don't know why. It's generally a really good ship. It's really great for side torp builds for Lieutenant Commander command seat, and also has a Commander temporal seat, so it's basically like the Dauntless but reversed. It's very tanky for a science spearhead with a hull modifier of 1.25 and a shield modifier of 1.5. It has a 4-3 weapons layout, which makes the ship even better for side torp. And the Ensign Engineering seat on this build is perfect since the Emergency Powered Auxiliary is really the only engineering bridge officer ability necessary. With engineering seats, it's only emergency powered auxiliary and maybe another emergency power ability if you really need it. For the cons of this ship, it is very slow for a science spearhead, only having an impulse modifier of 0.17 and a turn rate of 7.5 with an inertia rating of 40. It only has 4 science console slots, which honestly isn't really that big of a downside unless you're using the advanced science consoles. And the console and trait that come with this ship are only really useful in rare situations. In the number 6 spot is a ship that I doubt anybody was really expecting to see on this list, that being the Rallus Temporal Dyson Science Destroyer. This ship is arguably the best science destroyer in the game for EPG setups because it has a temporal intel spec combo which makes the ship fantastic for anomaly spamming or a Dusai setup. The ship is available in the Sea Store, which makes it fairly affordable. It has a 4-3 weapon setup, and it also has an experimental weapon if you set it to tactical mode. It has a battle cloak, and this ship actually uses a warp core instead of a singularity core, which trust me is even better than a singularity core because warp cores generate more power, while singularity cores generate less power in exchange for their singularity abilities, which honestly in this state of the game aren't really useful. The ship does have a couple of downsides, though. It has a Force Lieutenant engineering seat, which again offers little for the ship outside of a Dusai setup, and the console and trait that the ship comes with consistently underperform in all tests that I've seen people do. Generally, pretty good ship, but you don't want to get it for the things it comes with, you just want it for the ship itself. In the number 5 spot is the newest science ship within the game, the Premonition Temporal Science Spearhead. This ship's main strengths come from its double temporal seating, which offers a bit of flexibility in how you set the ship up. It's got a 4-3 weapons layout, it's available in the Sea Store, and the ship is somewhat fast for a ship of its size. That's actually something I noticed out of all the ships within the Heritage Starship bundle. They are very fast. The ship's cons, though, has a Force Lieutenant engineering seat, which again offers little for a ship outside of a Dusai setup. It's got a lower inertia rating, which makes the ship slide around a fair bit. And as Stu1701 has pointed out on multiple occasions, this ship is not a temporal battlecruiser. Falling just short of the top 3 spot, we have the Lucari Genera Scout ship. This ship is very easily obtained as long as your fleet meets certain requirements. Those requirements being you need to have a tier 5 colony world fleet holding and a tier 1 shipyard. If you do not have those in your fleet, then tough luck because the ship is then unobtainable. The seating is nearly perfect for pure EPG builds, however. The one thing that could be better about the ship I'll go over in the con section. The ship is highly maneuverable and has access to radar flanking because it is a scout ship. Its maneuverability stats are very high with a turn rate of 18, an impulse modifier of 0.2, and an inertia rating of 80. This ship will be very fast and you might take a bit of getting used to, but once you do get used to it, you'll really enjoy the movement stats on the ship. And this is actually a great budget alternative to the Verne Temporal Science vessel. For the cons, it has a 3-3 weapons layout. Again, the ship is unobtainable if your fleet does not have a tier 5 colony world fleet holding. And this is the part of the ship that really could be done better. It is not full spec, only having a Lieutenant Commander temporal seat. And for a ship, it is fairly squishy because, again, it is a raider, or more technically a scout ship. Taking the bronze medal for EPG ships, we have the Orion Devar Temporal Science vessel. This ship was released early this year, and when I first saw it, I instantly knew this ship was going to be a banger because of its temporal intel seating, which makes the ship great for anomalies. The intel seat is also on the Lieutenant Commander engineering seat, which means you don't have to use any of those engineering bridge officer abilities. You can just use them for all intel, nothing else. And it also has 20 bonus auxiliary power, which is exactly what a science vessel does need. You don't want power in pretty much anything else. Maybe a bit in shields, but you don't want the bonus power anywhere else. You want it all in auxiliary. For the cons of this ship, the trait has an obscenely long knockout time of 120 seconds, although you do get plus 25% crit severity when it does activate, which stays with you until map moving can stack. It has a 3-3 weapons layout, which makes the ship unsuitable for anything other than a pure EPG build, and the ship has a low hull modifier, which makes the ship more vulnerable than most others. In the number 2 spot, of course, the ship was going to be here. It's a Chekhov Intel Science Warship. I love this ship so much, and I'm telling you, it's not just in the number 2 spot just because of sheer favoritism. This ship is genuinely amazing. It's got an Intel Temporal Seating combo, which makes this fantastic for Anomaly or Dusai builds. The Temporal Seat is also on a Lieutenant Commander Engineering seat, which means you don't need to use any of those Engineering Bridge Officer abilities. It's got a 4-3 weapons layout, and this might be my favoritism speaking, but this ship is arguably the best EPG ship in the game, in the Sea Store, that is. And the innate lance weapon is great for damaging enemies and also giving a bunch of control, because what it does, when you fire it off, it does a bunch of physical damage and also drags enemies towards the focal point of it. When I was looking for the cons of this ship, I couldn't find any within the ship itself, mainly just within the stuff it comes with, because the trait is literally just a worse version of the Terran Trailblazers, and the console is bugged at the moment. It is not tracking targets correctly, and I wish they would fix that, but no matter how many times I report that bug, nothing ever gets done about it. Please, Cryptic, fix the arson beam. And taking the number 1 spot for the best EPG ships in the game, and surprising absolutely nobody, is the Verne Temporal Science Vessel. This ship is considered to be the best EPG ship in the game because of its double temporal slash side seats with the 2 universal seats, which means you can just stack on a whole bunch of exotic damage triggers, plus the Ensign engineering seat, which means you can just slot emergency power to auxiliary and literally nothing else is necessary. And in addition to that, the ship is very fast and maneuverable. For the cons, however, it does have a free weapons layout, and the trait is literally irrelevant to the current state of the game. Because what it does, it just damages you for a bit when you're above a certain throttle, and then once you drop down below that throttle, it'll start reducing the cooldown on your bridge officer abilities. But the thing is, if you're using Improved Atomic Officer, this trait is literally not needed. In fact, I would go out and say this is probably one of the worst traits in the game. But apart from that, the Verne Temporal Science Vessel is the best science ship within the game. So if you're going for your event campaign and you don't know what else to pick, I would generally go and pick this one. Oh, and the console on it. It's okay. It just reduces the cooldown on some of your abilities, and that's pretty much it as far as I know. So that was my top 10 EPG ship list in Star Trek Online. I hope this list helps you in deciding what ship you want to get for your event campaign if you're in the EPG chase. And let me know what you think of this video down below. Remember to like, subscribe, it does help my channel. Join my Discord once I reach 100 subscribers. I'll be releasing a giveaway there for 100 master keys. Also join the Continuum Discord to meet other content creators like myself. Anyway, my name is Galactic Gaming. Stay cute. Until next time, keep having fun. Bye bye.